How do I stop comparing myself? Have you ever looked at someone else's life and suddenly forgotten the beauty of your own? It happens so deeply. One moment you are grateful. The next moment you feel behind. You scroll through someone's success, someone's marriage, someone's businesses, someone's beauty, someone's ministry, someone's family, someone's happiness, and without anyone saying a single word to you, a voice inside you whispers, "Why can't you be more like them?" That whisper has stolen more dreams than failure ever has. Not because comparison destroys your ability, but because it slowly convinces you that your whole life is not enough. Maybe you've never admitted it out loud. Maybe you smile when others succeed. You clap. You congratulate them. You genuinely want good things for them. Yet, when you are alone, something inside you hurts. Not because you hate them, but because you are quietly wondering, when will it be my turn? If that is you, I want you to know something before we go any further. There's nothing strange about you. You are not weak because you've compared yourself. You are human. Comparison is one of the oldest struggles in human history. Long before social media, people compared. Long before followers, people compared. Long before smartphones, people compared. Technology did not invent comparison. It only made it louder. So today, I don't want to teach you how to stop looking at other people. I want to help you understand why comparison keeps pulling you back. Because once you understand the root, the chains begins to loosen. Imagine a beautiful oak tree standing beside a river. Its roots reach deep into the earth. It doesn't rush. It doesn't compete with the flowers growing nearby. It doesn't envy the birds flying above it. It simply becomes what it was created to become. Now, imagine that same tree somehow becoming aware of the birds. It says, "I wish I could fly." Then it looks at the flowers. "I wish I were colorful." Then you look at the river. "I wish I could move." Day after day, the tree becomes so busy wishing it were something else, that it forgets to grow. The tragedy isn't that the tree cannot fly. The tragedy is that it stops becoming a tree. Isn't that what comparison does to us? It doesn't merely make us admire someone else. It quietly distracts us from becoming ourselves. Most people believe comparison is caused by jealousy. This is invisible wound. I don't think that's the deepest truth. Comparison is often born from a quieter question. Am I enough? When that question remains unanswered, every successful person becomes a mirror. Not because they are judging you, but because your own heart is searching for reassurance. Think about it. Why does one person's success inspire you, while another person's success makes you feel small? The success is not the problem. The hidden story you tell yourself about it. Maybe the story sounds like this: if they are ahead, I must be behind. If they are chosen, I must have been overlooked. If they are gifted, perhaps I have nothing special to offer. Notice what has happened. Without realizing it, you've turned another person's journey into a verdict about your own worth. But another person's life was never meant to be the measuring stick for yours. Listen to this truth that we often miss. Imagine two people climbing two different mountains. One mountain is covered in snow, the other is covered in forest. One path is steep, the other path is winding. Would it make sense for the climber on one mountain to constantly judge their progress by looking across at the other? Of course not. Different mountains, different weather, different terrain, different pace. Yet, that is exactly what we do. We compare our beginning to someone else's middle, our private struggles to someone else's public victories, our unseen preparation to someone else's visible achievement. No wonder comparison leaves us exhausted. We are trying to solve a puzzle using pieces from someone else's picture. My dear friend, what if comparison is not actually asking who is better? What if it is secretly asking, do I know who I am? That changes everything, because people who are deeply rooted in who they are still admire others. They still celebrate others. They still learn from others. But they no longer need to become others. The opposite of comparison is not pretending no one else is successful. The opposite of comparison is becoming so grounded in your own purpose that another person's success no longer threatens your identity. That kind of freedom doesn't happen overnight, but it begins with one decision: to stop asking, why don't I have their life? And start asking, what kind of person am I becoming with the life I have? That question doesn't shrink your world, it opens it. Dear friend, take a deep breath for a moment. Not because breathing magically solves everything, but because you've probably been carrying a weight you didn't even realize was there. The weight of constantly measuring yourself, measuring your success, measuring your beauty, your intelligence, your friendship, your spirituality, your influence, your age, your progress, your bank account, your healing, even your faith. And here's the strange part: the measuring never ends, because comparison has no finish line. The moment you become like the person you admired, your eyes find someone else, then someone richer, someone wiser, someone more attractive, someone more influential, someone more peaceful. Comparison is like drinking salt water. The more you drink, the tastier you become. That is why comparison can never satisfy the human heart. It was never designed to. The hidden lie we tell ourselves about comparison. The lie hidden inside comparison. Let me ask you something. When you compare yourself, what are you really hoping to find? Most people think they are looking for motivation, but deep inside, they are looking for permission to believe they matter. Read that again. Listen to that again. They are looking for permission to believe they matter. That means your value has quietly become dependent on your position. If I become as successful as them, then I'll finally feel enough. If I become as beautiful as her, then I'll finally love myself. If I become as famous as him, then people will finally respect me. Notice what has happened. Your worth has been tied to achievement. But here's the truth. Achievement can increase your opportunities. It cannot create your worth. If your value depends on outperforming someone else, you spend your entire life afraid of being replaced. Because somewhere there will always be someone faster, someone stronger, someone smarter, someone younger, someone with more experience. So if your identity rests on being the best, your peace disappears the moment someone else excels. That isn't freedom, that is exhaustion. Dear friend, imagine walking into the most beautiful garden you've ever seen. There are roses, sunflowers, lilies, oak trees, lavender. Each one is breathing. Now, imagine the roses begin saying, "I wish I were an oak tree." The oak tree replies, "I wish I smell like lavender." Lavender says, "I wish I were as tall as the sunflower." How ridiculous would that sound? Not because one is better than the other, but because each one contributes something the other doesn't. The others cannot. A garden is beautiful precisely because it is diverse. Humanity is no different. The world doesn't need 8 billion copies of one successful person. No. It needs people who become fully themselves. Comparison makes diversity feel like competition. Wisdom reveals it as contribution. Dear friend, many years ago, imagine two sculptors working in the same village. The first sculptor spent every day watching the second. Every time the second sculptor carved a masterpiece, the first changed his own work to match it. Day after day, he copied, adjusted, compared, copied again. The second sculptor rarely looked around, not because he was arrogant, but because he was listening carefully to the block of stones in front of him. Years later, people traveled from distant lands to see the second sculptor's work, not because it was perfect, but because it was unmistakably his. The first sculptor remained unknown, not because he lacked talent, but because he spent his life chasing someone else's masterpiece instead of discovering the one hidden inside his own hands. My dear friend, comparison doesn't only steal joy, it steals originality, and the world is changed by original lives, not copied ones. Here's a question I want you to carry with you. What if the life you admire was never the life you were meant to live? Not because it's a bad life, but because it belongs to someone else. Imagine wearing shoes made for another person's feet. They might be beautiful, expensive, perfectly crafted, but if they don't fit you, they would wound you every time you walk. Many people are trying to walk through life in shoes that were never made for them. They call it ambition. Sometimes it's simply comparison wearing a better disguise. The truth that sets you free, listen, you were never asked to become someone else. You were asked to to become more fully yourself. That doesn't mean you stop becoming from others. It means you stop measuring your worth against them. Admiration says, "What can I learn?" Comparison says, "What is wrong with me?" One opens the mind, the other wounds the heart. Learn to recognize the difference. Listen, dear friend, I want you to do something simple today. Take one sheet of paper, draw a line in the middle. On the right side, write, "The life I want to build with what I've been given." Now ask yourself 3 questions. What strength have I been overlooking? What steps can I take today instead of wishing I had someone else's life? If I stop comparing myself for 1 week, what would I finally have the courage to begin? Don't answer quickly. Sit with the questions. Sometimes healing begins not with finding new answers, but with asking better questions. And remember this, every minute you spend trying to become someone else is a minute the world loses the person only you can become. The world has enough copies. It is still waiting for the original. Dear friend, there's the deeper question beneath comparison. A question many people avoid. A question that quietly shapes the way they live. Do I know who I am? Because when a person does not have a strong relationship with themselves, the world becomes their mirror. They look at other people to discover their own value. They look at applause to discover their importance. They look at achievement to discover their own worth. They look at approval to discover their identity. And this creates a very painful way to live. Because anything outside of you can change. People can change their opinions. Trends can change. Opportunities can change. Achievements can come and go. But if your sense of self depends on things that constantly move, your peace will constantly move with them. Listen, dear friend. Think about a newborn child. Before that child achieves anything, before they earn money, before they become successful, before they create something valuable, people already recognize their worth. Why? Because worth is not created by performance. Performance reveals what you can do. It does not determine who you are. This is a truth that many people spend their entire lives trying to learn. You are a human being before you are a human doing.